So today we are fitting MGB seat covers. This is for the late models 1970 to 80, and Tom is going to show us how to do that. So Tom's going to start just by putting those two frames together. What we've done already prior to today is take the seats, take all the seat covers off, take the foams off, the diaphragms off, and we've actually cleaned up the seat. So we've taken wire brushes, got rid of all the stuff, and then we've essentially checked the mechanisms. Tom's just putting a bit of WD-40 on there, making sure they work. They're a little bit squeaky to start with. We've obviously repainted those seat frames, and now we're just making sure that before we do any work on the diaphragms and the backboard, we make sure that the mechs are just working as they should be. It's quite simple to take these seats out of the car. All you do is just get them on, just completely remove the seats from the car by making sure the seat slide runners are bolted to the fixing points, and we simply just access them by sliding the seats to the furthest point, back and forth, and then you can unbolt them. The seat covers that we're doing is going to fit both MGB and Roadster and the GT models, and this is for the year 1970 to 80. It's probably the most popular. The only real difference between those seats during that period is the base foam, which we'll get to in a bit. The earlier seats had what we call the humpy base foam, where the models built after 1973 up to 1980 had a more of a flat base. The backrest and squab is identical in all models, but like anything, just make sure you get all your stuff out before you do the seat fitting in a nice clear warm workshop. We're currently doing this in deepest darkest winter. We had a killer frost today, but we're in a warm workshop, and Tom is just getting the diaphragm,
putting the hooks in around the diaphragm.
So with the diaphragm you get these hooks, so you just put those, Tom will show us, he'll just lift it up to the camera so we can see when he's done that line. There we go, perfect. So we finished putting all the hooks into the base now, so Tom will just line those up.
Start at the front there.
So just starting on the front, putting it into the back of the base there. Needs a bit of brute force. Always best to do this stuff in a warm workshop. Don't leave the box outside or up in the loft because it will be cold. Just get a bit more flex. The hooks should line up with the existing holes in the seat frame. And Tom's got a lovely little internal tool there, just a hook. Look at that. Bit of a hook. Old broom handle, I think that. Bit of brute force just to get that in.
Diaphragms in.
Diaphragms in. That didn't take too long.
No. So we've already installed the headrest roller, which keeps your headrest from falling into the seat. Get the backboard on the right way.
Yeah, so the backboard now, the Squab backboard. Squab is the part of the seat that you lean your back against. And normally over the, years they would become torn or perished or worn out. So we do always recommend that you kind of use new foams and backboards and diaphragms.
Just locating the screw holes at the bottom, they might need to be re-drilled fresh.
So what Tom's doing there is he's just relocated those holes. The backboard fixes to the squab with a couple of screws.
Yep, 2 screws at the bottom, and then it's just taped around the rest of it, just to keep the contours of the seat.
So the tools required for this kind of job, we'll move on to the foams, but a good spray contact adhesive, obviously a Phillips screwdriver, a flathead as well, some pliers, maybe some clamps, scissors. We'll need a spanner and socket set as well, bit of tape, sticky tape. So just using the tape just to secure the backboard to the frame that we prepared earlier.
If there's any overhanging just around here, you can just trim the top, but apart from that, yeah, so it should fit pretty well. You might also need to trim just inside here, just so it fits inside the welds.
So we're now moving to the squab foam?
Yep, squab foam, we're just going to trim off, there's a sharp edge from the moulding process all the way around, so we're just going to trim that off. I'm also just going to make 2 incisions just either side of this part here. That's just going to allow the foam to sit across the mechanisms there and just allow clearance for that. Right, so just going to use some spray contact all the way around the edge of the foam and also inside the lip as well.
So using a good contact adhesive is really important. And the reason we use contact adhesive is that you need to spray both the frame and the foam itself, and that tackiness will then stick to each other. And you normally can let it go off for 30 seconds, a minute or so. It gives you time to line up the foam. When using sprayable contact adhesive, try and do it in a well ventilated area. So we're just lining up the headrest hole at the same time. So we're just overlapping that foam edge around the backboard edges to achieve a nice rounded finish. And Tom will show us that in a sec.
Go for any sharp edges or any points like that, you can just kind of trim off. Also, what you're going to have to do is make clearance for the handle, so you just literally chop a little U shape out like that, just for clearance for that, and also these holes need clearance as well. The next part is just to make clearance for the headrest function here, so you're going to have to feel with your fingers in there just to get the edges of the metal. Once you're happy with the location, once you're happy, trim out the rectangle like that so the headrest has got plenty of clearance. Also, the later seat is slightly wider in the face than the earlier seat, so we're just going to chop a bit of this out just for a bit more clearance.
If you haven't got a bread knife cutter, what would you use?
I'd probably use a really sharp blade, maybe get it sharpened up really sharp. These are about £20 on Amazon, it's probably a better buy really.
And just tell us again why you've trimmed that?
I've just trimmed that out because the later seat has a wider flute, has a larger face than the...
Just fits a little bit better. So that foam will fit the earlier seat as well.
So just going to apply a little bit of Warden to the top, just to soften this back edge.
So just offer it up first. Always do that when you're trimming out, whether it's carpets or panels or seats. It's always good just to do a couple of dry runs just to make sure you know what you're doing. You do get a bit of time with the contact adhesive. You can have 2 or 3 goes because it does take a few seconds to go off. So Tom's just folding that up. Put a bit of spray on the wadding, a bit more on the back of that seat. Just give it a smooth finish when we put that seat cover on. So this is a good trick. The bag that the seat covers come in, just cut a big strip off, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to just have that over the top of the seat, and just then it just allows the seat cover just to ease on a little bit easier. So we've just prepared a polythene strip that the seat covers came in. Just put some glue on there, some contact adhesive on the other side, put that over the wadding, put that over the seat foam as well.
Make sure it's nice and tight and there's no creases in there because they will show through. Basically literally just trimming off the sort of excess, make sure you've got enough there, but obviously you need to keep your holes clear, like your handle hole and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so that's the squab is fully prepared now, ready for the cover to go on. Yep, so basically we're just going to prepare the cover, ready to slide on. Now that's all prepared, you'll find you've got this inside the packet, which is your fitting instructions, and there's also some stiffener boards in there. So these replace the original stiffener boards.
And where do they go?
They go just in these pockets. So you'll find there's some pockets at the bottom of the side bands there, and they follow that shape. So they just glue internally into the pocket.
So to prepare those squab covers for fitting, just make sure you get those half moon boards out.
Just need a little bit of glue on there.
And what this does essentially is it gives the squab bottom, the bottom of the squab, something to screw into when finishing off the fitting, just to give it that lovely finishing touch.
Just make sure it slides down in between the leather and the vinyl pocket there.
Yeah, so push it all the way to the bottom.
Once you're happy with it, just smooth it in and make sure it's stuck in. And then repeat on the other side.
You shouldn't have to trim these. These should fit perfectly. We're using leather seat covers for these.
Right, so once they're installed, bring your assembly back.
So now we've got the boards put into the seat covers. We're using some more.
Just use some silicone spray, some easy slide, just to make your life a bit easier really.
It's always good sometimes just to offer that up just before you put that on there, just to make sure you know what you're doing. Tom's an expert. He's done hundreds and maybe thousands of these. So you're pulling it down firmly now, that seat cover?
Yeah, so pulling it, sort of get it roughly halfway down. And then just reinstall your headrest, but make sure the clip's not in there because that won't ever come back out again.
So align that headrest hole. We're just trial fitting the stalk. And just making sure, well, you're arranging the foam really inside the covers to suit.
That just means that when you're pulling it down, the cover won't slip left to right.
So we're just making sure we're taking care not to snag the material over the...
Very tight, so we'll need to flip it a few times. So yeah, we pulled the cover down tight to the frame, each side, and then what I've done is I've pulled it as tight as I can at the back and just basically installed one seat clip into the back here. Just installed one clip just in there, just to keep the back tensioned, and then what we're going to do is just carry on working down the sides.
So Tom's just now using a bit of brute force just around the edges, just manipulating that seat cover. So don't worry if it doesn't look perfect to start with, you just need to just work the seat cover.
Right, I think that's as tight as that's going to go on that side, so once you're happy with the tension, you'll need a spike or a bradawl or some sort of needle just to get in there and make a hole for the screw. Just double check where the hole is in the metalwork.
So the reason we do this is just so that it holds the seat cover roughly in place. And the reason we put those boards in is it just gives Tom something to screw into when finishing that squab fitting. So Tom's just finishing off the side. On the other side now of the squab, he's just going to line up that screw again.
The sides are in. So once the sides are in, just work back to the rear and then just put 2 more clips in.
So these are the C-clips that come in the bag of goodies that you get with the seat covers. I wouldn't use any existing ones, they would have corroded over time. So you pull that seat cover really tight, get that around the frame, and then with the other hand you're just pushing that clip on.
I'll try and move the foam out of the way so I can use my knee. Once you're happy with the sides and the back, we can then work on gluing these 2 flutes up both sides to make sure the front sticks in.
So getting that spray adhesive, essentially it follows those 2 vertical lines.
Make sure you get it all the way to this edge so it sticks in permanently there.
On the seat fitting instructions there's an arrow pointing to that, so you spray it in the right place and get in as far inside that cover as you can, and just wait for that glue just to get tacky. Just give it a few more seconds. Are you putting that over all of it or just along the lines?
I'm just going up these 2 outer flutes here, so up there and all the way down here.
So just keep it off, and then when he goes in now it is quite hard to redo it, so just keep,
make sure it goes tacky first.
yeah, and you just feel it, and then you've got to get in there.
So use one hand to push this bolster foam to the side and the other hand to glue the flute section down into.
As you can see there, the seams should locate nicely inside that foam. On that bolster, that side bolster there, you can see that definition, just pushing that in. It's always good to do a dry run of this before you put the glue in. There we go, just get that crease in there. You can just see how that leather just sits beautifully on there.
Good. Okay, so once you're happy that that's stuck in the centre, you can then just work on the bottom flap. So turn the seat the other way. This headrest can now slide out. As you can see, that's now going to make sure that that stays located to where it needs to be. So we just apply a bit of spray glue to this large tube inside there. And on the flap. So for this part you're probably going to have to get down and just look in here and make sure that that's level all the way along.
So essentially Tom's just pulling that material, wrapping that material firmly around that squab tube.
Once it's glued around the back there, just tuck it under. And that's essentially finished. We've just got to put some C-clips now on here to secure.
So there we go. So that's the squab done. Now we move on to the base.
Yep.